Now, one of the things in journalism that's important is that we make journalistic photographs. I mean, one of the problems with phones is they tend to use normal lenses and take normal pictures, right? That's their job, is to make sure the greatest number of pictures in the world turn out for the greatest number of people. Now, the downside of that is that journalistic pictures end up looking like pictures of grandma putting the ornament on the Christmas tree, you know, and that's the problem. So there have been aftermarket technologies like this gizmo that I've snapped my phone into that actually allow me to, let's see if it works. Let me use first video here. There's two programs I'm going to suggest that would be great for you to know. One of them is the one called First Video by Vericorder, and the other one is Professor Cobrey's own program called Video Pro, which is, if I can get it to go back, there it is. Hello. This camera allows me to zoom. This program is one of the only, hello Pat. This is one of the only programs that actually allows you to zoom with the camera, you see how that could be a professional technique that you might want to use, right? The other thing it does is, one of the things that I think is very important to what we do as journalists is kind of give it that, for the lack of a better term, the journalistic bend, foreground, background perspective, right? So there's this big head over here, and that tells the viewer that guy is probably going to figure somehow in your story, right? Because you've emphasized him in his big chrome dome. That out. There you go. All right, so you see how that can add a storytelling element by well, that's what I call it when I tell my students, bending the frame, right? So what I'm doing is using a little $100 frame that's got a phone on it, and I'm using that technology to make more journalistic looking photos. Yes?
How much is that gizmo? What's it called?
This, well, you could get it at, matter of fact, it's on this list I have for you. It's called, well, now it's called PHOCUS, Focus Technologies. Right. You can buy it at B&H or other places. The other thing that is really valuable, and I'm going to talk to you later about where to go to learn how to do this. One of the great places is a free website by Richard Cochi Hernandez at UC Berkeley called multimediashooter.com, which is going to be on your list too. So,
how long does that go, by the way, without being hooked up to a power source?
That's just the length of the phone, whatever. I mean, whatever your battery does. I don't think video is any more. I could be wrong. I've never done a long shoot with it, but I would assume it'd be just like playing an MP3 or a movie. Yeah.
Or would it drain more?
Yeah, I don't know. It's a good question. But you can also put a shotgun mic on this. There is an adapter you need to get to use a shotgun mic with this. It's about 15 bucks. But essentially, you're starting to, you're starting to do pro quality work from a breaking situation. Now, I would say the next step to take would be, I'm going to go blue screen for a while here. The next step to take would be probably to something in the intermediate range. Now, I like a camera. I bought these and they're no longer being made at this point, but Kodak makes a camera, a very specific name I'll give you. I think it's on the list. It's called a ZI-8. So, Kodak ZI-8 allows you, and you can get it on Craigslist for anywhere between 40 and 100 bucks usually. I bought a bunch of them about 2 years ago. There's a ZI-10, a ZI-7, all of them. Get the ZI-8 because it's the only one that has a microphone in the jack. And you can actually use a $40 or $50 camera, you can probably find one on Amazon, to do pretty good quality video reports. It actually shoots HD video, 1080p video. So, and that is completely acceptable to CNN, iReports, and local stations would probably take it, and it's the size of this thing. This is the second thing, version I would recommend. This is Olympus's, I think it's called an LS20M, and this is an audio recorder, a video recorder, and again, my standard for any of these things is whether or not you can plug a microphone into it. So if I'm doing an interview, I would probably do a handheld mic, but if, for example, it's best that we don't for some reason, I would use a lavalier mic like this and go from there. So this is also a camera. Let me turn that on. So in a way, you can get into the game for relatively little. It's not going to cost you a fortune. I don't know whether you can see that, but this is a camera that you actually hold right here, so you're a little steadier. It can be awkward at times, but you have the ability to shoot video or to put it into the microphone mode and shoot audio, and it actually has a little color monitor. It's not bad, and it's about $200. Okay, so one thing I will tell you, two things I'll tell you, and I promise not to talk too much about technique. Any camera, any video camera you shoot with, always make sure it's locked down. Make sure it's on a tripod. Make sure it's not moving. The world, right now, the only thing in this room moving is me, right? Could you imagine if you were shooting this with a camera that you were moving at the same time? It would be like I'm walking in an earthquake. The viewer instantly starts paying attention to sloppy technique. They just say, well, why is that moving? I can't hear what he says because I'm worried about a crappy picture, right? So you will improve your video shooting capability 1,000% by getting yourself a tripod and understanding that any shot you take, even a detailed shot of something on the wall, has to be shot at least probably 10 or 15 seconds of it, and it has to be shot locked down. It slows you down. It's no fun. But essentially, if you come from your Uncle Tony's world of going to the wedding reception and spraying the crowd, you know these guys who go there and it's like, nobody ever watches that. And nobody, believe me, nobody's ever going to buy it. I know that for a fact. So lock it down. Just think of this metaphor right here. That's the frame in your camera. That's the noun. That's the stage. I'm the actor. I'm the verb. I should be moving. It should not be moving, right? So that should be the metaphor right there. The other thing is, be sure when you record video that it is, the microphone isn't too far away. Generally, I recommend a fist's distance, just like this is right here. This is working, right? Right here. Oh, hello. How are you doing? Right? So, any microphone should be really close. It's called signal to noise ratio. So let's say there's a fan right there. And you know, you're kind of, well, I don't want to bug the guy. I don't want to put a microphone on him. And I'll just leave it here on the table, right? So I'm over here talking to you, and that fan, say that thing is a fan, that is really loud. So that fan and I are fighting 50-50 right now, right? 50-40, 60-40, 70-30. I win, right? That's because the proportion, just the distance, that's the noise, I'm the signal, right? The closer this is to me, the more I can turn my microphone down to listen to me, and therefore that gets quieter. And I stay fine for the thing, because I'm so close, the better it gets. So, three things, right? Tripod, stand close, use your microphone very close, and we go from there. Okay, so if they had multimedia classes, probably didn't know that. So, okay, so that's the video version of this. If you really want to do radio, if you really want to do NPR or something like that, so I'd recommend something at least like this. This is a Roland R05, which is on the list I'll be giving you. And this allows you to plug in, not only plug in a lavalier mic or a handheld mic, it also allows you to use line voltage. Like if you go to a city council or supervisor's meeting, there's a way to adapt what's coming out of their sound system into your recorder. So this is Roland. There are other companies that make recorders. Another good one is it's called a Zoom H4, which is, actually I brought the wrong one. This is a Tascam. Basically it looks like that, a Zoom H4. And the difference is that uses a larger cable system. It's called an XLR, which is a lot better. If you're going to be doing a lot of professional work, I'd suggest, basically it's the difference between a wire that's that thick and a wire that's much thicker. I actually brought an XLR cable, but the idea is there's less interference if you use the fatter cable. So you might, if you're really going to go for meetings and stuff, or places where there are a lot of people, possible other people and radio frequencies and stuff, you might want to get the one that does the XLR. Any questions so far on equipment? And I'm showing you probably the cheapest ones. Like I mentioned, that Kodak camera is pretty cheap. You can get, the Kodak camera also is like the Kodak camera is like this Olympus. It records audio and video, and also shoots stills. All three of these do all three. So, but again, this is sort of that entry-level breaking, blogging, quick file from the scene stuff. I would say that's where you want to go. By the way, that's an XLR cable right there. That's you can see it's a little more robust than the little ones that go in here. The other thing I would really invest in as soon as you can, earbuds are good and they're fine, but in the long run, get yourself a set of cans. Yes, sir?
Stability options when a tripod is unavailable or not allowed or impractical because of the situation.
Okay, so if you were talking about a situation where you know, this is so perfect, but if I set up a tripod, I'm going to call attention to myself, I'm going to ruin the moment, you just do the best you can. If it's, I have used beer cans, I have used ketchup bottles, I have used tables themselves. The main thing is you just kind of get into the idea of protecting a little area where nothing's going to happen. That's going to be fine. If it's provided it's the right composition, we're fine. There are also these little kind of bendable tripod things that kind of hug around things. So for example, if this is a pole, this is a flexible, you can get this at Radio Shack, you can get it in various places. So anyway, they would clamp onto just about anything. Did you have some suggestions?
Well, my situation that I was imagining is something where you have to move with other people. Oh. And they won't sit still for you.
Right, well, one of the real keys in shooting this kind of video is to make sure that, as I said, the camera can't be in motion just because you're fidgeting. The camera also needs to create a temporary stage. It needs to create a temporary screen that people can walk around in, right? I'm walking over here, like that. So whenever you commit to a shot, you turn this on, you think of it as an X-ray. You think of it as a 15-second, I'm holding my breath for 15 seconds, right? This camera's not moving. Whatever happens, happens, and I'm doing the best I can to make sure that the world, this person I'm doing the story on, that world doesn't move. So I mean, technically, I would probably brace myself something like this. If I had actually, we'll talk about DSLR in a minute, but I would brace myself like this, or in this case, the camera's so flat, I'd put it next to my body. And every shot I commit to, I turn the camera on, count to 10, maybe 15, then I turn it off. There will be no possible use for a 2-second clip when you go into the editing process. So whatever you commit to 10 seconds of time, okay? Because that is huge. Because generally what we do when we get to the editing process is people talk over some of these pictures we're shooting. There'll be called a cutaway, and this picture might cover a cutaway. But if the picture only lasts for 2 seconds, it's useless to a cutaway. Yes, sir?
Have you used or experimented with any of the things that are sort of the cheapo version of the Steadicam kind of setup? Because Steadicam stuff is expensive, but there are ways of kind of jury rigging one. Yeah. Wondering whether you've used anything that is inexpensive.
Yeah, I'm a Steadicam operator myself. I use a Sony big old camera, and yeah, I mean, I have used the $3,000. There's a $22,000 model. I use it like the $3,000 model. Basically, you're talking about a way to get kind of neutral balance. There's actually a way, if you want to look online, there's a thing called the Poor Man Steadicam, which is essentially you can use a tripod to do completely crazy Steadicam shots. Let me just show you I'm digressing a little bit. I'll get back to it in a second here. But the world's craziest Steadicam shot, right? Not like having people watch you while you type. World's best, craziest. Yeah, world's craziest Steadicam shot videos. So this is somebody wearing a harness, basically.
That's not on the screen.
Oh, that's right. Hello. Thank you for pointing that out. This is going to be a lot more informative for you if I get the damn computer hooked up. Huh? Any questions while I fumble?
Can you clarify that second audio recording device, the Zoom H4?
Zoom
Just Z-O-O-M.
Zoom, yeah. They make an H1 and an H2, get the H4. Everything else is way too flimsy, so.
How much is it, a couple hundred?
You can buy these for $200, yeah, I mean, I would actually maybe look on, I'm a Craigslist guy, I don't know whether you are, but I mean, Amazon has them cheap too. So Zoom H4 is a good solid one. Okay, this is a guy wearing probably a 70-pound Steadicam. So that's actually the Steadicam effect. It doesn't have any jumping up and down, or it basically, that's one shot. Now, they're going to show you now how the guy did it. Oh. This is actually called flying the Steadicam. Okay, here's the shot. So that's a Steadicam. It's actually a thing you wear that's kind of like a gooseneck, one of those trapezoidal lamps, and then the body, this is me doing the sonography, your body, you basically balance your body. So I would say, yeah, there's a lot of ways to hold the camera still, and I would say Steadicam may be a little out of most people's league, but it's cool. Let me get back to my thing here. Okay, so where was I? Okay, so we talked about a little bit about gear. Let me make sure we get that covered. Okay, so gear, there we go. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. What am I doing wrong here? Oh, I know what I did. There you go. Sorry. Okay, so the top photo hello, man, sorry. There we go. Okay, so the top photo software I would consider for the phone. Let me start there and see if I can get my screen back. Whew, what a relief. Okay, there's a couple of them. There's actually Photoshop is really, Photoshop I think is called PS, which is actually a $9 purchase for your phone or your pad. Would be great. There's also one called Pro Camera. This is Professor Cobry's software. That's the shooting software. And if you're using iMovie or you're using on the Galaxy, the Galaxy or the Droid, they have their own very good video shooting and editing programs. I'd suggest a couple of possibilities for audio. Which one of them is the iPro recorder, and the other is Hokusai, which is those are both, I think they're both free too. The top video softwares, we talked a minute about Pro Video. The one that a lot of journalists have used over time has been one called the Vericorder First Video Program, which is which not only helps you use your phone as a where is it? Oops. Helps you use your phone. There it is. First Video, and you can see you can use it as a video recorder, a still device, or as an audio recorder. So if I do audio, it shows up and it's got meters. How you doing? Hello. Hello. So I'm recording, it just immediately starts, and once you get it, it says, what do you want to do with it? Let's save it as recording, let's edit it, and go from there. So that's pretty useful. The other one is, get out of here. Oops, I hit yes, there you go. The other one to consider, so it also helps you take still photographs, like that. And shoot videos. And the nice part about this one is it allows you to do what we use professionally called the A-roll, B-roll edit, which is the voice is on the A-roll. The person you're interviewing is typically the the guy on camera, who's part, who's going to be our person for the interview, is going to be on the A side, A roll, and the pictures, the illustrative pictures that the person talks about, the B roll, is added below. I'm going to show you an A roll, B roll piece of software in a second. So, in terms of the first stage of storytelling and that quick, the basic file from the scene kind of thing, file from the fire kind of thing, I would suggest those two. Filmic Pro is another great example. Same idea, basically. Again, the Pro camera is probably the most advanced we have, and you can hear about that more today from Professor Kobe. But one thing I would just in terms of everything you do, whether you're a writer, you're a radio reporter, a videographer, photojournalist, whatever, most great stories come down to three things. They come down to the story, the aesthetics, and technique, right? So, and the key is not to be too overbearing in any one of these things, to allow the story to arrive organically and to have impact. So what I'm suggesting is that, this is one of the great ways I help students look at their portfolios. I just say, for example, if it's in journalism, and all of your story subjects are 22 years old and they look just like you, and you're not probably going to get a job as easily as the person who has has got out into the real world and they photograph peoples of different race, different class, different economic class, different cultures, age. So ideally, as veteran reporters, you guys know that's, it's not particularly, you never thought of it in terms of what do I need to put in my portfolio to get a job. But when I talk to my students about this, it's amazing how campus-centric and how kind of predictable a lot of portfolios are, because they're just people telling stories about people just like them. And that's not really what you want to do with your career, right? You want to get out there and you want to travel the world and do great stories. So that's what I talk about to my students with regard to journalism. And this is the same thing with aesthetics and anything else. If you're repeating yourself in terms of aesthetics or technique, that'll become evident in a portfolio or a professional website. That's why I like Linda Freund's site so much. She just shows, I am just fearless about technology. I go do the stories that matter to me. I find somebody to pay me to do them, and it's working. So that's a huge thing. Okay, let me talk a little bit about how we're going to pay for this stuff. Right? So one thing you can do for sure to cut the price down is sign up for a class somewhere. You become a student in the eyes of Adobe and Apple and Microsoft, and you save anywhere to as much as probably 50 or 70% with Adobe, I know. There are several pieces of software we'll be talking about in a minute. The other way of getting good or free, cheap or free software, ideally I was going to suggest taking a class. A couple of places you can go. In this case, I'll show you Academic Superstore, which is about 90 cents on the dollar for most software, or 10 cents on the dollar for most software. Some of the more desirable stuff. As long as you have evidence of being a current student, you can get amazing, amazing discounts at Academic Superstore. This is another link that's going to be on here.
It could be any class. I'm doing that with just like half a unit tennis class.
Really?
At Contra Costa College.
Well, there you go. So now, if you're doing this professionally, if that doesn't appeal to you, and you could write it off anyway, you might want to consider. Well, first let me talk about the 30-day trials. Make friends. If you know somebody who works for Adobe, or you know somebody who works for a store, they can definitely save you some money. Not this version, but my version of CS5, the master collection of CS5 came to me through a friend at Adobe, and I just had to pay the $150 friends and family charge. Microsoft has a place called the company store. Has anybody ever bought anything from the company store? Basically, you pay shipping, and if you work for Adobe, for Microsoft, or you have been, if you're retired, you still have rights to the company store for as long as you live. So if you know anybody who worked as a Microsoft employee, they could probably get you some pretty good deals on Office or some of the other programs that Adobe, that Microsoft makes. Okay, 30-day trials. Pretty much any software I'm going to talk about, you can get a free 30-day trial just to play around with it. The downside is it's going to be on your computer at the end of 30 days, and you've got to figure out how to get rid of it. So the other thing that you might already know about, it's really good. It's amazing deals right now for students. I think it's still through the end of this month. Adobe Creative Cloud is essentially the kitchen sink. So if you are a professional, you would pay, if you buy 1 year's worth. And again, this ends up being kind of like a cell phone bill, right? You pay $49 a month and you get access to everything. I mean, there's a few things you don't, but for the most part, it's the equivalent of getting to use the Adobe Master Collection, which is a $2,500 piece of software that's got everything in it. You get to use the Master Collection for $49 a month. And if you are a student, it changes from month to month here, but the students were as little as $19 a month or $25. Now the thing is, I tell my students, this is a great deal because you're only going to be in my class for 4 months, right? So do that. Or if you have a special project coming up that needs, InDesign or something that, one specific piece of software, you might get the whole suite, or you could probably get InDesign only. I don't know how that works with the cloud, but the main thing with the cloud is that it's the most up-to-date software. When you don't pay your money, it's still on your computer, and all you need to do to reactivate it is, catch up. So it's an interesting way to think about software. It's where everything is going. Everything is going to the cloud. Everything is going to be up there, and it's going to be pay gates everywhere. So this is one of the first examples we have in terms of software. Yes?
I know something about this, and it's getting even cheaper. As of next week or something, they're going to drop the student price even more.
Really?
So it's practically free.
So Adobe Creative Cloud, look next week for...
It should be, because Adobe Next is convention.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, so they're announcing stuff and the rumor is that's one of the...
Yeah, well, this is, again, I would absolutely go to Adobe. I have been a Final Cut guy all my life. I still am cutting 3 projects in Final Cut 7. Just out of necessity because I teach it. I teach with Premiere, which has always been the one that everybody didn't like as much as Final Cut. Premiere does a lot of great things that help a guy like me, especially with regard to titles and graphics and all the things Adobe does so well in other programs. It's just interconnected and it just makes sense. So I love Final Cut. I teach Final Cut, for the most part, I teach Premiere simply because that's what my students are getting on the Creative Cloud. So that's a great piece of software to consider. Oops. Now what? Next slide. Okay, so I want to show you a few pieces of software. Who has edited audio before? Okay. How many of you have used Audacity? Oh, okay. Well, then I don't really need to show this for too long, but let me just give you an idea of timeline-based editing. Right? This is my best way to describe it. Okay, so let's come in. Now let's say, now this is a timeline, right? This is a piece of software that creates content over time. This is timeline-based. If you think of Photoshop, if you think of InDesign, if you think of Illustrator, those are canvas-based. It's two-dimensional, locked in a moment, right? It's basically a design, right? Something you print out and put on the wall. So that's one way of thinking about all software, either it's in terms of graphic and visual communication software, is that it's canvas-based or timeline-based. So if I want to do my big NPR report, 1A, 2B, 3C, right? Fantastic. Put that on the air right away. All right, you learn a few little tools, and you can scoot stuff around, and there you go. So I go in, and just like Microsoft Word, so that was 1A, 2B, C, 3, right? So I'm going to take that, I'm going to cut that. Command, what do you do when you cut in Word? Apple, Command, cut, right? So cut, bye-bye, paste. Right? So I always mix this up. I'm going to cut that one, paste it there. 1, 2, 3, A, B, C. You're editing. That's all it is. So it's just a matter of cutting and pasting, and you're editing. Now, the difference between audio and video is that the pictures come along for the ride when you do that. And sometimes you want to disconnect the audio from the pictures in order to make the cutaway. But for the most part, this is something you can do, and you should feel like there's no mystery to it. It's absolutely completely within your grasp. Questions on that? Okay, let's go back here. Another great piece of software that you might want to play around with once you get a good track cut with your audio is SoundSlides. This is also available as a free demo. You'd have to actually, if you want to get their bug off of the off the screen when you show it to your client, you probably have to pay $80. But this allows you to create a timeline-based slideshow. And rather than actually do this, basically what you do is you create a new project. It's going to say Kim's project, put it on the desktop. Where's my pictures? JPEG, right? Where's my audio? MP3? Okay, and it's going to build a sound slide for you. Now what I'm going to do, rather than show you how to do that, I will show you one of my favorite journalists in the whole world, Mel Melcon, from the Los Angeles Times, who does an amazing little photo column called Population, as in LA, like Los Angeles, Population. So let me show you just what he's able to do with still photography and what I like to call asynchronous sound. So if you think about video, usually when it's a guy being interviewed, the mouth moves when the sound is being heard, right? Hi, hi, hi. Right? When you do asynchronous sound, it's a still photograph, so there's no opportunity for a real mouth movement when the guy's talking, right? So we don't spend a lot of time putting guys talking on the screen, which is my favorite thing. It's a real more, traditional mini documentary approach. So in video, the audio and the travel video, the audio and the video tend to travel together. If you do an asynchronous project, the audio is absolutely recorded at a separate time for the most part. There's always exceptions, but it's something to think about. So let me just show you. Oops. It's not getting bigger, it's getting smaller. Let me give you an example of one of Mel's. Man, what's up here? This projector's getting wacky. Let's just play that one and see what happens.
I knew Hollywood was
I knew I was going
a
to do
place
this. He
where
shoots video too.
he got the best.
Hang on, sorry. I cannot get the player today. Anyway, I'm going to probably have to refer you to that one. This doesn't seem to be loading properly today on this projector. So, anyway, Population's probably got about 60 or 70 of these audio slideshows that are probably have maybe 100 or so still photographs and a good kind of NPR sounding radio track, kind of This American Life sounding audio track. And interesting people. I mean, as you know, as people in the field already, you know, it's all about character. It's all about finding that right person for the story. And not so much having a conversation with them on tape, but having an interview. And having the sort of the discipline about making sure that you don't go, oh, oh, yeah, and having to cut all that out later because you couldn't be quiet, right? So when you're doing any one of these timeline-based things, you've got to learn to telegraph what really is happening. So if you really like what the person is saying, they're cracking you up, they're making you laugh so hard, you've got to learn a way to laugh without making noise. Or if you need them to continue to say something, you do one of these kind of, Michael Tilson Thomas things with the hands, right? More, without saying anything. And if, for example, they say, obviously the idea of open-ended sentences. How are you? Fine, right? No good, right? Tell me how you got here today. Which way did you come today? See, that commits you to telling me a story. So whatever you say, tell me about, as opposed to how are you, or whatever, you're going to get a real usable piece of video or audio. Okay. So, so at this point we are in, and you've got your DSLR camera sitting. If I wanted to show you the last kind of level of technology I would suggest for what I've just shown you, which is, we don't have a lens on this one, but it's a DSLR camera. And the ones we use at San Jose State are going to be the Canon T3i, which is, you have a 60D, that's pretty cool. Oh, thanks. Just slapped that on there for me. Basically, the cameras I'm talking about are between $500 and $800, and they have the capacity to do video and audio simply by turning it into a live shot camera, right? And this does 1080i, which is where you want to be, which is the essentially TV channel quality news. You can also add a microphone on top. You can do pretty much anything you've ever done with still photography you can do with this. Plus, you're able to use it for video. So, and again, it needs to have a tripod and everything I was talking about earlier. So, have you been a multimedia journalist doing both? What's it like trying to do both at the same time? Yeah, the one-man band, that's what we call it. Okay, well thank you for letting me borrow your camera. I loaned mine out to a student. I completely forgot I didn't have it this morning. So, oops, I just started recording there, sorry. Thank you. Any questions? Yes?
So which Canon are you talking about?
Oh yeah, okay, so I would suggest the Canon T3i or T4i. You can save money on the T3i because there's now a T4i. And there's not a heck of a lot of difference other than maybe a touch screen and stuff that I don't even need. There's a Nikon D 3200, which is the equivalent of the Canon I just told you about. They're both they're designed to compete with each other. It kind of depends on what lens you have, and go from there. So that's the DSLR route, and I recommend, I mean, I'm an old Sony guy for the big cameras, but I'm a Canon guy for the little handheld cameras. So I've always liked the picture from Canon small cameras better. So this is, I don't know what this is. This is 4 years old. I'm not even going to tell you what this is. But you can see that one of the first things I bought for it was an auxiliary wide-angle lens that turns me into more of a journalistic shooter. Right? It allows me to stand closer and emphasize things rather than to stand back and shoot it like a wedding reception. So that's an important accessory. You don't need to buy one of these big boat anchor ones, but there's various versions.
What model?
Well, that's 5 years old, not even for sale. You could buy that probably really cheap, probably $300 now. It's called an HF S11, and they're already up to the S32 now or something. So.
You mentioned something. What was the TI you said to get a Canon TI?
Well, if you want to get a camera that's what do you recommend? What do you recommend?
I recommend stuff.
Oh, yeah, he's got the.
The
Like,
60D is pretty decent.
yeah. Well, the one I bought that you can still get, it's been out for 3 or 4 years now. It's called the T3i.
And this is just a camcorder? Is that a...
Oh, I'm sorry. Are you talking about the video?
I was just curious what you were mentioning, Canon TI, because I have a 5D.
Yeah, well, that's the camera like I was holding up from him. That was the camera I would recommend for you as a still/video camera is called a T3i or a D3200 from Nikon. What was your camera back there, Steve?
It's a Panasonic 150, PD 150, or 150. No.
Panasonic, okay.
Yeah. Now, the battery on the DSL, how long does it last shooting video?
Yeah, well, the thing about DSLR cameras is they're sort of designed to, they're still cameras first. So you can shoot 30 minutes of video and you have to stop. And that's probably good because the cameras tend to overheat if you go much longer than that. The battery would last, if you're shooting HD video and writing 16 gigabytes of memory, it would last you about an hour. Okay, very quickly, I want to get back to my last. Oh, I'm sorry, question, yes.
How wide a wide angle did you put on that?
There's just, I think they I don't know. It's the one they make for this. There aren't a lot of varieties to these things. It's the Canon one. It's a 0.7x. So it doesn't really bend as much as you can. But there's a lot of companies that make those. So. Okay, very quickly, let me get into the closers stuff here. Okay, so we talked about that. How many of you have a blog like WordPress or Drupal or something like that? Okay, that's absolutely a place to make that web presence. I mean, Linda Blake's thing I showed you, Something very similar to that could be created with WordPress. If you're a photographer, I would suggest a piece of theme, a WordPress theme called Photocrati, Photocrati. And with Photocrati comes a whole kind of photographer's community that teaches you how to do search engine optimization and web marketing and things like that. Okay, I'll tell you the thing I really want to get to just for a second here is data visualization. And I think there's another session on that today, so I'm not going to beat you up on that. But let me just show you a couple of things you can accomplish in short order with, and for free, again, of course. So I'm going to go to my Google Drive. I need to sign in first. One thing that's very important, if you want to do this, be sure you because it's a Google-based thing, you have to have a Gmail account. You can't do it any other way, right? So be sure you do that. Oh, it's not letting me sign out. Oh, maybe I can do it this way. So anyway, the new version of Google has Google Drive. And Google Drive is a subset of little online programs that you're able to use to do interesting things. And one of them is say for example, I have a pie chart that I created in the Google spreadsheets, right? That's, oops, I always do this and screw it up, sorry. But I create this in Google spreadsheets that just says, since it's a pie chart, I've decided to have pie sales, right? So key lime is not moving this week. Oh, actually, key lime's doing pretty well this week, so. Rutabagas, like that, all right? So in Google, for free, if you want to start playing with data visualization right away, you just go over to this, and again, you have to be in Gmail to do this. You go over to the chart gizmo, click that, and you got yourself a pie chart.
Wow.
And then you can insert this into your WordPress blog or wherever you want to put it, simply by going out and getting an embed code, and it'll generate code for you. So that's pretty cool. Has anybody used that before? Yeah. Like it?
Wonderful.
Yeah.
It's the easiest possible way to do a very small chart. And when you get it online, you can pull the parts of the pie chart out. It does a lot of cool interactivity too. It's a great chart.
Main thing to remember is that you need to have clean data. I mean, it can only be numbers and words, and you need to learn how to play with this. But it's a pretty amazing thing. And there's a lot of variety here. You can, if I can get this thing out of the way, it is. Hello. But you can do pie bar charts, or you can choose other types of charts. The other thing I really quickly want to show you is editing a Google. Let me see if I can do this real quick.
You can put Excel spreadsheets into that.
Yeah, it takes absolutely, it takes Excel. Let's do let's see. Let me go to Maps real quick. Google Maps, and I want to show you how to edit a map real quick. I'm having a hell of a time getting out of this pie chart. What's up here? Go away. Let me close it. All right, so let's do a create map. Let's see, document, presentation, spreadsheet, form. Let's go on to Google. Where's my Google Maps department here? Oh, yeah, there it is, maps. Okay. So for example, if I wanted to create a map today, for free, cheap, as is the name of this thing, I would do my Google, get my current location here. Okay. Zoom in. This thing's fighting me. Anyway, I just need to drop a pin here real quick. Let me get an address here. San Francisco. Francisco Union Street. Let's do that. Okay, and then let's say I want to drop a pin right here. First thing I would do is, you know what? I'm probably let me send this to you on the links, because I got a couple of things more I want to say, but there's not enough time to do this, and you guys need to get going shortly. So very quickly, let me finish up with the big finish here, which is it's free. Of course, you can do it. All of these free and cheap programs are going to be on my list. Sometimes you're going to need to switch between audio programs. There's one called Handbrake, which allows you to, what's called transcode your video. That's free. Another huge place to go for this, I would go, if you'd like learning video exclusively or data visualization exclusively, go to the Night Digital Media Center. They've got a bunch of online tutorials on data visualization, on video. I'm going to be teaching for them this video storytelling class on May 29th. If you're interested in a live thing, that's possible.
Where's that going to be?
UC Berkeley Graduate School of Journalism. Also go to Richard Cochi Hernandez's multimediashooter.com, which has a lot of great tips. All the kinds of things you want to do about technology as well as storytelling, like that. The go-to place for learning the whole thing about Photoshop, or learning the whole thing about any piece of software is lynda.com. And you can buy a monthly or a yearly membership in Lynda and have access to tens of thousands of tutorial videos. You can also band together with a group and have a professor create a class for you. And essentially you get 5 Lynda classes for $10 a month. And you can, it's a pretty good deal. So if you have a specific thing you want to learn, and in my case, because we're doing web stuff, I'll have them learning about Adobe Digital Publishing Suite and those things. And we go from there. Okay, Adobe TV is free. And again, I would love for you guys to just get, if you want to get your feet wet in learning how to write HTML, I'd consider sending you to Code Academy, which, does anybody use Code Academy? It's one of the friendliest ways to learn code, and you literally will do a web page in 15 minutes. You will absolutely write your own web page, write the code for a web page in 15 minutes. It's guaranteed. All right, and lastly, I want to talk about 2 things. One of them is the iPad Design Lab and the Mobile Reporting Field Guide, which is an app you can get, and iPad Design Lab, which is another free app. Another app I think costs like $4, but it talks about how to design for the apps, for the mobile apps. Okay, you should know if you're an Apple user, last possible moment here, Ibooks Author is the PowerPoint of apps, basically. Ibooks Author is free, and you can create a, you can do a book. You can basically do an online book. It's coming. And for example, if I wanted to do this book, all I would do is replace the text, and away we go. Book. There it is. And then you can print this out either as a textbook or as online in the App Store, not directly as the App Store. That actually costs you money, but you can export it as a PDF file and lots of different things. So there we have it. Ibooks Author. There it is. Anyway, Ibooks Author free from the Apple App Store. Okay, we are wrapped up. I wish I had time for questions. I had a lot to get out here. I will be emailing this stuff from, it's got all my links on it shortly. So you'll be getting that, okay?
Thank you.
Well,